Hello there. How are you doing? Welcome to the month of June. Ooh, I'm excited. No, seriously, I'm very excited because this month we get to focus on strategy and talking about strategy. One of the ways that we elevate is to have a strategic plan. What's your plan for growth? What's your plan for becoming? What's your plan for stretching? What's your plan for the life that you want to see, the outcomes that you want to experience? What is your plan? And part of that plan is strategy. On today's episode of this podcast, we will be looking at the strategic mindset. You see, strategic mindset is stepping out of the everyday details and doing to look at the situation from a different plane, preferably a higher one, giving an objective perspective through a bird's eye view. So, that's one of the ways to look at it. You need to understand that every day we step out, we do everyday doing, everyday execution, as the word suggests. And there are ways that we do day to day things. But the truth is this: for us to see a different outcome, sometimes we need to look from a different plane, from a different perspective, from a different place, so that we can be able to see the outcome that we want to see. And so it is very, very important that we embrace the strategic thinking mindset, because the truth is that strategic thinking is less about innovation but more about the ability to make the right connections. You see, strategic thinking is such a critical skill that anyone who wants to elevate, anyone who wants to level up has to have. Yet some of us may be hearing this strategic thinking next for the first time in our life. There was a time that I had a conversation with one of my coaches, and she said something. She said, "You're great at execution, but you need to start thinking strategically." And that made me to really pause and consider and research around strategic thinking, because anyone who wants to lead at another level, live at another level, it's very important that you understand strategic thinking. And the truth is, even much more so now, strategic thinking mindset is as important now as it could ever be. All right. And so, how do we understand really the nitty gritty of strategic thinking mindset? There's some questions that I want to ask you to really kick off your thinking. And for those of you that are in our pro community, you would get access to what I call the mind map template. The mind map template is really something that would help you level up your outcome, level up your lifestyle, and just push into all that you need to do. But here is some questions you need to think about. Write them down if you need to. Number one is, where do you stand right now? Where do you stand right now? You need to know. Am I looking at things from the level of the everyday lifestyle, the routine and the habits and the daily nitty gritty? Or can I remove myself from the situation and look at this situation as an outsider? Can I look at it externally? And then number two is, where do I want to be next year and the year after that? For me to be able to know what's next, I should be able to look at my today and now begin to make my decisions, look at my outcomes, look at my life, and then see what further steps can I take to live the life that I want to live. What further steps can I take to see the outcomes that I want to see? And then number three, what skills do I need to get there? Now, sometimes to level up, we need to introduce a new skill set. For example, the world is now becoming a tech community. So most of what you want to do normally, you would want to introduce tech to it. So how do I introduce tech to something that is already pre-existing, something that I'm already working on, something that I'm already doing, so that I can actually elevate my possibilities, elevate outcomes, elevate things that I want to achieve, what I want to see, and things that I want to actually look forward to in my potential achievements and potential outcomes, right? And then going up to, how can I practice the skills? Being able to practice the skills, being able to practice it. being able to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, being able to say that this is an outcome I'm willing to live up to, this is something that I'm willing to push into, this is something that I want to do. All right, that it's really, 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 really important that you practice those skill sets. Don't just leave it for the day that is needed. Begin to slowly incorporate them. For example, when it was time for us to transition as an organization, there are certain things that I began to practice, things I began to study, things I began to look around to see, okay, this is something that we're going to try to get as an organization. This is something that we're trying to achieve as an organization. How can I, as a leader, now begin to introduce them slowly? So, for some of you who have been with the organization KMGA for a while, you could tell that we started pre recording classes. That was because we slowly wanted to see how to record videos, how to record ahead, how to position, do certain things that we needed to do. So you need to practice, because as you practice, you increase your chances of success. Now, the fifth question that you want to ask is, how can I increase my chances of success? Now, while practice is one of the ways, there are several other ways that you can implement to increase your chances of success. What other things do you need to do? What other things do you need to have in place to be able to increase your chances, increase your odds? What other things do you need to do to see the outcome that you want to see? How better do you treat yourself? How better do you look at yourself to be able to achieve it? What's your perspective? What's your personal development plan beyond just the skill set, right? These are things that you need to do. And number six, how can you use your time effectively to maximize it for impact? How can you use your mind effectively, or your times rather effectively, to maximize it for impact? And then finally, who can help you validate your ideas and give you feedback to expand your thinking? And this is one of the things that I really, really encourage people to do. Get a coach. Get a coach. Get a coach. A coach is not your friend. A coach is one that is going to tell you the truth. This is what you're doing, this is how you're doing it, and this does not work, this will not work long term, this outcome is going to limit what you're trying to build, and all of that. So get yourself a coach. I have a coach for different sectors that I run, different organizations that I run. I have coaches. I have a coach for my coaching company. I have coaching a coach for other companies that are in the line work for me to express and for me to begin to work towards them. There are coaches for them. I have conversations with them. I go to them when I'm stuck. I go to them when I want to get them to rate an idea, to validate an idea for me, to see if an idea is viable, if it is a good idea for me to work towards it. Right? It's very, very important that you are able to understand all of this. Else, you will find yourself stuck, you will find yourself limited in what you're planning to build. So, how do I enable myself to come to this place of strategic thinking? Strategic thinking. Number one, challenge and question assumptions. Many parents or even teachers are annoyed with kids who ask too many questions. But the truth is that these questions are necessary, because when we challenge, when we ask questions, it helps us to see perspectives and express our curiosity constructively. And this is a great skill towards strategic thinking. And one of the biggest problems that I see is that people do certain things because they've always done it that way. For example, you email a report every morning to hundreds of employees that no one cares to open. Recently, I did like a flush of my mailing list to see people that have never opened emails, and there were people that signed up for my mailing list but have never opened up my email. So what did I do? I removed them from my mailing list. I wanted people that would be able to engage with me, respond to my emails, respond to the things that I was saying to them, not necessarily because I wanted to sell them something, but because I wanted to impact them in the ways that they definitely needed to have. And so, one of the biggest components is to challenge how certain things are done. Begin to ask yourself questions. You ask these questions not with the intent to put somebody down or to establish your superiority, but to identify ways to do it better. And one of the ways that we do that is to ask targeted questions on specific things that you want to achieve, and learn from others' response or think about the problems differently. Now, looking at different point of views on these issues will help you expand your own thinking, and they would also give you direction on areas that you need to expand your horizon in. Secondly, observe, interact, and draw connections. The truth is this: there's the hustle and the bustle of getting making things happen, and the truth is that they can prevent you from noticing and projects that are more important in the long term but need your attention right now. And so sometimes we fall into the lure of attending to the urgent while pushing the important stuff aside. And the truth is this: instant gratification from solving the problem in the long term is more alluring than the prudent decision of building something that is sustainable. But the truth is that while we might optimize in the short term, right, the strategic thinking mindset requires us many times delaying gratifications. It requires us living with a small unimportant problem and putting our energy and focus on other things and activities that require long-term planning and execution. I read a book, Getting Things Done, which I am recommending to you, and I would be sending that copy to those that are in our community, right? And it in Getting Things Done, I realized that David Allen made a quote, and that quote really stuck to me. It says, "You've got to think about big things while you're doing small things, so that all the small things go in the right direction." So while I'm thinking about big things, while I'm thinking about the big projects, while I'm thinking about the big plans, I have to also begin to consider that moving my small things in the direction towards my big things. So, how can I do this? Number one, create a mental space for new ideas to kick in. Without quiet time to sit with your thoughts and facing sometimes that uncomfortable silence and letting your mind wander away, sometimes you cannot draw useful conclusions. And the time around, if you take our course on ideation, the innovation code, the creators code. Thank you. That's the name of the course, formerly known as School of Birthing. It's actually a course that you can go and take on your own. It's a self-paced course that you can take. If you take this course, you're going to see how that I'm going to help you to create and know the kind of mental space and the environment that you need to be the kind of creator that you need. Because if you are going to give up at the first try because you did not see any results, you will realize that you would never create a thing, you would never think differently. But if you're persistent in your efforts without distractions that are patterns of thinking, by staying with yourself. Remember, we live from inside out, not outside in. We live vi- in our environment, not environment. And then another great strategy is not to restrict your knowledge within your current scope of work. Spend time learning about your business, your industry, what you do, attend for how meet with other people and find out how their part works, how things around them works. Because if you are isolated in your thinking, you would never be able to see the big picture of growth, the big picture of possibilities. Rather, you will be restricted and limited surrounded by. And so, building strategic thinking involves looking beyond the obvious and now prodding and shaping the uncertain future. And you can't do that without the willingness to face discomfort in the present to build the skills you need for the future. Number three, create a goal and articulate it clearly. When you draw a conclusion, don't just end there. Create a goal. and begin to articulate it clearly, begin to communicate your goals clearly. The key to strategic thinking is understanding what you want to accomplish or the problem that you want to solve. Now, it may sound easy, but it's not. So rather than just writing your goal as it is crucial to understand, why do I want to achieve this goal? It is important that you research and identify options to reach those goals as well, because as much as writing those goals are vital, it guides you. Knowing what you need to do guides your thinking process as you create different ideas to achieve your goals. So don't just look at one way of thinking, don't just look at one possibility, but expose yourself to various possibilities, expose yourself to various environments, various scopes of thinking, expose yourself to various outcomes that you want to achieve as you journey as a leader and as a person who is trying to achieve something that is worthwhile. And then don't just end with articulating your goals or researching to identify your goals. Learn analysis. Learn analysis. This is something that I encourage everyone to analyze. Learn to analyze your options and analyze your risks objectively. Remove sentiment and emotions when it comes to analysis and look at facts and possibilities. This is where that you have to be hard on yourself, be hard on the picture that you're trying to create, so that you can actually create an outcome that is worth living for. Because once you have your list of options, you need to analyze it, analyze its risk, and after identifying, sorry, the risk, what would you do when your risk happens? Understanding your risks forces you to confront many what ifs. And the truth is this: you are slowly and surely developing your ability to think strategically by answering these questions. So address different possibilities. Openly discuss worst case scenarios. The truth is this: if you are able to identify and consider and actually work towards your worst case scenarios, and I talk about this in the Creators Code course, being able to see your worst case scenarios and executing the best that you can while anticipating the worst. This is one of the things that makes the best creators stand out, because they have seen the worst case scenarios and they have anticipated it. And then number 5 is taking action. Taking action. While you create your goals, your plans, and while you do all of this, it will be in futility if you do nothing. So when you've completed all your what ifs analysis and conversations, make a decision. And remember, there is actually no right or wrong decisions when you make it. The chances are you don't know the consequences of your decision until later. Hindsight is always 2020, right? And the truth is, we don't know what we don't know. In fact, the Secretary of Defense of the US at a particular time, Ronald Rumsfeld, said, "As we know, there are known knowns, and there are things we know we know. We also know that there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know some things we do not know, but there are also unknown knowns, the ones that we don't know." Embrace and accept unknowns when you make your decision. And this is one of the ways that you're going to deal with disappointment as you begin to build, because the choices that you make will create the future and make it possible. And that includes taking action. You need to step out of your comfort zone and begin to take strategic actions to what you want to see, to what you want to become. Begin to create an atmosphere of possibilities that allows you to live the life that you want to live, how you want to live it. And finally, when you take actions, adapt and adjust along the way. The truth is this: adaptation based on situational changes sharpens your strategic thinking skills. It is the meat of continuous strategic thinking development. So, depending on what's going on, you will need to develop creative solutions to address development. So, as much as we all hate changing directions, sometimes we need to take detours to get to where we need to go. And so, by talking with your family or friends in personal situations or working with teams, or you begin to ask the question of why and walk through different scenarios and potential risks. But above all, how do you adapt quickly? How do you adjust to the unknown unknowns that you meet along the way? Right? How do you adjust to things? How do you help yourself to know what needs to be done at the time that it needs to be done? Finally, to wrap up, you have to realize that strategic thinking is an ongoing process. So there are three things to help you adapt and adjust. Number one, audit. Make it a habit of reviewing, whether weekly, whether monthly, learn to review. Steve Curvey, in his book Seven Habits of Effective People, says if the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. You must learn to examine your strategy from time to time and audit it to ensure that you are still leaning against the right wall. All right. So you need to ask yourself certain questions to know if you are really leaning against the right wall. And for those of you in the community, I'll be dropping some strategic thinking questions to help you. And then number two, after auditing, is to inquire. Inquire. It's very important that you make inquiries because it is so easy to get muddled up on your own thinking and assume that you're making the right decisions even when you are not. Others can clearly see what we are sometimes when we are unable to see it ourselves. So, seeking an outside opinion and encouraging different perspectives that challenge our viewpoint is a great way to uncover our blind spots. So, get a coach, like I said earlier, get feedback from your team lead, get feedback from your colleagues, your co-workers. Just be somebody that gets feedback. And then when you get feedback, adapt your feedback, learn to put in your or change your future strategy based on your current outcomes that you've worked around. I really hope that this is going to help you to build a strategic thinking that you want to think. I definitely recommend that you get those two books, Getting Things Done and Habits of Highly Effectual People. And I definitely encourage you to sign up for the Creators Code course. And it's really, really going to help you to know how to create and how to build and how to innovate effectively. Until next time, I love you and I look forward to you having the best life possible as you make decisions to elevate. It's bye from me for now.